master himself but once, and he stands on higher ground, with wider outlook, with keener vision, and clearer atmosphere. The man had always seen life in its relation to himself. He came now to consider his own life in its relation to all life, which point of view has all the difference that lies between a low valley and the mountain peaks that shut it in. He felt his relation, too, not alone to all human life, but to all created things. With everything that lived, he felt himself kin. With the very dray horses on the street, dragging with patient courage their heavily loaded trucks. With the stray dog that dodged in and out among the wheels and hoofs of the crowded traffic. Even with the sparrow that perched for a moment on the ledge outside the window near his desk, he felt a kinship that was new and strange. Had they not all, he reflected, horse and dog and sparrow and man, had they not all one thing in common? Life. Was not life the one thing supreme to each? Were they not, each one, a part of the whole? Was not the supreme object of every life, of all life, to live? Is the life of a man, he asked himself, more mysterious than the life of a horse? Can science, blind, pretentious, childish science, explain the life of a dog with less uncertainty than it can explain the life of a man? Or can the scientist make a laboratory sparrow more easily than he could produce a laboratory man? With the very trees that lined the streets near where he lived, he felt a kinship, for they too, within their trunks and limbs, had life. They too were parts of the whole, even as he was a part. They too belonged, even as he belonged. Thus the man saw life from a loftier height than he had ever before attained. Thus he sensed, as never before, the bigness, the fullness, the grandness, the awfulness of life. And so the man became very humble with a proud humbleness. He became very proud with a humble pride. He became even as a child again. And then, standing thus upon this new height that he had gained, the man looked back into the ages that were gone, and forward into the ages that were to come, and so saw himself and his age a link between the past and the future, linking that which had been to that which was to be. All that life had ever been, the sum of all since the unknown beginning, was in the present. In the present, also, was all that life could ever be, even unto the unknown end. Within his age and within himself he felt stirring all the mighty forces that, since the beginning, had wrought in the making of man. Within his age and within himself he felt the forces that would work out in the race result as far beyond his present vision as his age was beyond the ages of the most distant past. Since the day when he had first realized his manhood, the working out of his dreams had been to the man the supreme object of his life. He had put his life, literally, into his work. For his work he had lived. But that Christmas Eve, when his mind and heart were so filled with thoughts of childhood, and those new emotions were aroused within him, he saw that the supreme thing in his life must be life itself. He saw that not by putting his life into his work would he most truly live, but by making his work contribute to his life. He realized that the greatest achievements of man are but factors in life, that the one supreme, dominant, compelling purpose of life is to live, to live, to live, to express itself in life, that the only adequate expression of life is life, that the passion of life is to pass itself on, from age to age, from generation to generation, in 1,000,000 forms, in 1,000,000 ages, in 1,000,000 peoples. Life had passed itself on, was even then passing itself on, seeking ever fuller expression of itself, seeking ever to perfect itself, seeking ever to produce itself. He saw that the things that men do come out of their lives even as the plants come out of the soil into which the seed is dropped, and that, even as the dead and decaying plant goes back into the earth from which it came, to enrich and renew the ground, so man's work, that comes out of his life, is reabsorbed again into his life to enrich and renew it. He realized now that the object of his life must not be his work, but life itself, that his effort must be not to do, but to be, that he must accomplish not a great work, but a great life. It was inevitable that the man should come to see, also, that the supreme glory of his manhood's strength was in this, the reproduction of his kind. The man life that ran so strongly in his veins, that throbbed so exultantly in his splendid body, that thrilled so keenly in his nerves. The man life that he had from his parents and from countless generations before, the life that made him kin to all his race and to all created things. This life he must pass on. This was the supreme glory of his manhood, that he could pass it on, that he could give it to the ages that were to come. From the heights which he attained that Christmas Eve, the man laughed at the empty, swelling words of those who talk about the sacredness of work, who prattle as children about leaving a great work when they are gone. who gibber as fools about contributing a great work to the world. If the men of a race will perfect the manhood strength of the race, if they will exalt their manhood power, if they will fulfill the mission of life by perfecting and producing ever more perfect lives, if they will endeavor to contribute to the ages to become stronger, better men than themselves, why, the work of the world will be done. Even as the plant produces its flowers and fruit, the work of the world will be done. And the exaltation of life is the remedy for the evils that threaten the race. The reformations that men are always attempting in the social, religious, political, and industrial world are but attempts to change the flavor or quality of the fruit when it is ripening on the tree. The true remedy lies in the life of the tree, in the soil from which it springs, in the source from which the fruit derives its quality and flavor, in the appreciation of life, in the passion of life, in the production of life, in the perfection of life, in the exaltation of life, is the salvation of humankind. For this and this alone man has right to live, has right to his place and part in life. All this the man saw that Christmas Eve because the kiss of the little girl, on that night of his temptation, had awakened something in his manhood that was greater than the dreams he had been denying himself to work out. The friendship of the child had revealed to him this deeper truth of life, that there are, for all true men, accomplishments greater than the rewards of labor. The baby had taught him that the legitimate fruit of love is more precious to life, by far, than the wealth and honors that the world bestows, that indeed, the greatest wealth, the highest honors are not in the power of the world to give, nor are they to be won by toil. In his thinking, this man, too, was led by a little child. The man's thoughts were interrupted by a knock at his door. It was the little girl's mother, to tell him, as she had promised, that the child was safely asleep. With his arms filled with presents, the man went softly down the stairs. When all had been arranged for the morning, the man returned again to his room, but not to sleep. There was in his heart a feeling of reverent pride and gladness, as though he had been permitted to assist in a religious rite, and, with his own hands, to place an offering upon a sacred altar. And, if you will understand me, the man was right. Whatever else Christmas has come to mean to the grown-up world, its true meaning can be nothing less than this. Nor did the man again turn to his book or attempt to take up the train of thought that had so interfered with his reading. Something more compelling than any printed page, something more insistent than his thoughts of life and its meaning, lured him far away from his grown-up days, took him back again into his days that were gone. Alone in his room that Christmas Eve, the man went back once more to his yesterdays, back to a Christmas in his yesterdays. Once again, his boyhood home was the scene of busy preparations for the Christmas gaieties. Once again, the boy, tucked snugly under the buffalo robe, drove with his parents away through the white fields to the distant town, while the music in his heart kept time to the melody of the jingling bells. Once again, he experienced the happy perplexity of selecting, with mother's help, a present for father, while father obligingly went to see a man on business, and of choosing, with father's assistance, a gift for mother while she rested in a far corner of the store.